Hi, can you hear me? Hopefully. Well, my name is Stefanie, and I took Algebra 1 in high school in 9th grade, and I could not solve an equation to save my life. But if you gave me 4 numbers as choices, I could figure out which one was correct. Oddly enough, I made it to calculus AP in high school and got an A. I don't know how, still to this day. When I took my placement exam for college, I tested into, don't laugh, but I know you're going to laugh, math for liberal arts majors. So how did I go from a calculus AP student earning an A to a math for liberal arts major placement? Blew my mind. So needless to say, I was a speech pathology and audiology major. Nothing to do with mathematics. I just couldn't do it. But somehow I found myself as a math teacher. When I graduated with my speech pathology major, I was looking for a graduate program, and my mom said, you need to get a job. You got to start making some money. So she worked in a school district and said, oh, do substitute teaching, no big deal. Just make some money that way. It's quick and easy cash. You're a babysitter. So I started subbing. It's true, I know. I started subbing, and then the principal asked me if I would be willing to sub in a math class for a month because the teacher was going on maternity leave. And I'm like, all right, sure, anything. I get 30 days of like guaranteed pay. I'm all for this. So apparently she designated me as a good math teacher because I could control a group of 12-year-olds, and I actually knew how to do the math that I was supposed to be teaching. Now, I'm not saying I knew it well. I certainly didn't know how to explain anything, but I could actually just do it and make the kids follow my steps. And if you do this enough times, you'll memorize it just like I did, and you'll be able to get by. So I was a speech path major turned into a math teacher because of this principal. She actually offered me a full-time job that very next school year. Blew my mind. I had no credential, no math background, obviously. So I somehow ended up teaching for 10 years. I taught for about 7 years, and then I was a coach for 2 years. So I made it to the level where I'm now helping other teachers teach math in my school district. Speech path major, makes no sense. So, and currently I'm actually a curriculum writer for the Engage New York materials that Scott mentioned and Wu mentioned yesterday. But in between teaching, coaching, I went back to teaching for a couple of years, and now I'm doing the curriculum writing. My first year of teaching, that principal who said I was good said, you need to get your credential if you want to keep your job. So I'm, all right, now I'm making bank because I got salary, right? So I need to go get this credential. Well, I ended up getting my, what is it called, multiple subject credential, and then I ended up getting my foundational level math credential so I can teach up to geometry now in California. So I realized I had to enter this credential program because I needed to become a good math teacher. I knew I wasn't. I knew I was just getting by, and I knew I wasn't doing a good service to the students. So I enrolled in this credential program where they taught me how to deal with diverse children, how to differentiate in your classroom, some strategies for English language learners, how to provide that comprehensible input so that all the students understand what you're talking about. And then they taught me some general methods about how to motivate students, how to use cooperative groups, how to incentivize students, offer them homework passes, a day off of homework. This is great stuff. They said, this is how you formally assess students, and this is how you informally assess students, and this is what makes a good math teacher. Well, my math methods course was essentially look at the standards across the board. Yeah, that's it. I didn't learn any methods specifically for math. So what my credential program lacked was an in-depth study of the math that I was going to be teaching. It was just this cursory examination of the standards, and even that didn't get what I really needed, which was a cross-grade level study of standards, so that as a decision maker in my classroom, I knew which standards would be okay to skip and which standards were not okay to skip. Because at the time, there was just too much to do in one school year, right? There probably still is. But I didn't know that if I cut out solving equations, that there would be repercussions down the road, because I didn't have that kind of knowledge. So, notice here I'm becoming a good math teacher as a question, because this is what my credential program was supposed to prepare me to do. Well, then I realized, no, now I am becoming a prepared math teacher. Not necessarily good, but a prepared math teacher. Because my principal one year, same principal, she says to me, all right, you have 2 choices. You're either going to teach summer school, or you're going to go to this 3-week math institute and led by Dr. Wu. And I said, well, which one am I going to make more money at? Because at this time, I'm like 22, 23 years old. That's all I care about, right? So she said, okay, just go to the Math Institute. We'll get somebody else to be the summer school teacher. I'm like, okay, didn't realize what I was getting myself into at the time. 3 weeks, and there's, people here who know, 8:30 to 4:30 every single day, Monday through Friday for 3 weeks. And there was homework. Homework on top of that. Are you kidding me? This is supposed to be my summer vacation, and this is what I'm doing? This is insane. I didn't realize at the time how much I was going to get out of it. I learned the importance of definitions, and not just definitions, but good definitions. Knowing what a fraction is. It's not a piece of pizza. It's actually a number. It's a point on a number line. That makes sense. That makes sense, right? What's congruence? It's not same size, same shape. It's mapping one figure onto another through a series of basic rigid motions. Similarity, what's that? Well, it's a dilation followed by congruence, or congruence followed by dilation. But these are definitions that I never knew, and now that it just made sense. It absolutely made sense. If I went back to high school, I could probably solve an equation and do some geometry. Now, the explanation of the whys. I learned why a negative times a negative is a positive. Not just that it is, but why it is. If you want me to explain that later, I'll need paper. And I learned why we invert and multiply when we divide fractions. So this 3-week institute with Dr. Wu taught me the importance of mathematics and how to really become that prepared math teacher. I didn't know the impact it was having until that next school year. I felt like I was becoming a more prepared math teacher because those 3 weeks, even though I couldn't turn around and implement everything I had learned in those 3 weeks, what I did take away was a more critical look at the materials I was using and the curriculum I had. I was noticing errors in the curriculum and the sequence. I didn't understand how we could teach students equivalent fractions to begin with while using the algorithm of multiplying fractions at the same time. It just didn't make sense. I took a more critical look at myself as a teacher. I constantly questioned, what I'm saying making sense? Is what I'm saying mathematically correct? So will it aid in the understanding of topics when the students move on to the next grade level? So again, I didn't realize the impact I was making on students until I did this informal, it's supposed to be 4-year look, 4-year look at the impact of my content knowledge on the students that I was teaching. And now if you're a stats person, please forgive me, this is nothing formal. We're going to look at some grade 7 students. There's high-stakes state exam results over a 4-year period. And just so you know, I work in a low socioeconomic area. Lots of kids on free and reduced lunch, lots of English language learners. Most of the kids that I got, they were generally the same kinds of kids coming in each year. So as a baseline, and oh, those colors are awful. Okay, sorry. In 2009, 2010, this is a year before I returned to the classroom. What you see here and here are the students that were scoring 60% and 80% and above on the state exam at the end of the school year. So the year before I returned, we're looking at maybe 36% of the population that could get a D or better on this state exam. The next year, this is my first year back. And I kind of felt like a new teacher again, but I also, just so you know, was designing every single lesson on my own, sharing all of my curriculum with my partner teacher, and this little pie chart encompasses all of the 7th grade students with the exception of those who were the cream of the crop being pulled out to take algebra. Okay, so my first year back, we're looking at more 53%. So we went from 36 to 53%. I thought that was a cool thing. My principal loved it. Absolutely loved it. There's so much green in that chart, but something else to note is that here, this like red piece of pie, not a fraction, but Okay, so 4% of the students were barely breathing in grade 7 math the year before I get back. And so then it decreased to less than 1%. Now, few students, but it's something to note. Now, my second year, now I had done some revisions to that curriculum that I had written myself. My partner teacher was more comfortable with what I wanted him to do, and he was a great partner. He did everything I told him to do, everything. Now you see chunk of green here, big chunk of green here. So now I've gotten where I got 75% of these grade 7 students scoring proficient or advanced on that state test. This pie here was when I realized, wow, that content knowledge made a difference. So this last chart is the year that I left. So you can see that we went from, 75% when I was there. Now we dropped back down to 52%. But the teacher that I worked with, he kept using those materials. So there was still some good there. So what made the difference? Lots of years, lots of years. I think I attended maybe 6 or 7 years of these 3-week institutes and actually started working for WU to help them implement them. And it really was a strong desire for me to do better because I knew I could. And all the lessons I wrote for the students were based on what I had learned from WU. So how can you help produce more prepared math teachers? If they are pre-service, give them content-based courses in the math that they teach. Me knowing high-level mathematics is not going to help me out as much as knowing why I invert and multiply or what the real definition of congruence is. If they're in-service teachers, if you can provide these similar institutes as WU did for me, there will be a difference. The teachers need it, and they know they need it. And somebody had mentioned yesterday, do the teachers even know that they have gaps? They do. They do. I found that K-5 teachers will acknowledge them more than middle school teachers, because middle school teachers are supposed to know what they're doing. They won't admit to it, but they know that they have gaps. So if you can get to them, get to them. And the content-based PD, not so much pedagogy, because that's what we know, but really content about what we teach. Thanks.
I'm David Scott at University of Puget Sound. One of the things that I've noticed in the different presentations was that on the one hand, for at least one of you, learning more of the mathematical content was very, very important. Another one, a very important element, was understanding the way students may misinterpret or misunderstand, may look at something in an entirely different fashion than you're thinking of. And the question is, how do these two elements, can we reconcile these in terms of emphasis? One of you might have really been perfectly happy to skip the course in, the pedagogical misinterpretation, and another might have been very happy to skip the course, the institute that talked about the proper approach to the mathematical content.
If you're speaking about the difference between what we were saying, the courses that I was taking as a math major, I felt like maybe I could have skipped a couple. But if it was the sort of stuff that she was alluding to in terms of even what WU was doing over the summer, that is what I would want to take. And the courses like Professor Friedberg had with fundamentals of math. So I think it's different. Maybe none of us were elementary ed majors, even though that's who I work with now. They're the ones who I think might not even want to pursue some of the coursework. I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question correctly. I don't know if the difference was the two of us. The fact that I was saying I was a math major and could do without some of my courses, and you were saying that you needed more math.
I don't know that I focused on you
okay.
particularly, but I'm happy with the answer.
Okay, great.
From listening to the names, right? Davida Fishman from Cal State San Bernardino. From listening to the four of you, it sounds as though you've been very proactive in your own learning, in your own professional growth. And one of the struggles I have with students is helping them see that today you're a student, tomorrow you're going to be standing in front of the class. Can you offer some insights on how we can help our students look at their learning from a more professional standpoint?
I think the teachers, soon-to-be teachers, need to be challenged. I think too often we attend PD where they try to make us feel good. Oh, you know what you're doing. This is fantastic. This is great. But I think once you really challenge them, then they'll start their own reflection, because that's what it was for me. We spent hours, days, talking about what a fraction was. I'm like, I thought I knew this stuff. I really thought I knew it. And then it was that moment of being challenged that I understood more completely than ever before. I have a lot of work to do. So I think just challenging them that way.